Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, welcome or welcome back to the Wilmac Wire. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest is someone that we've had the pleasure of spending time with in person at conferences this summer. And every time that I get the chance to talk to him, I just feel like I walk away with something new to think about. I would say he's one of the most refreshing voices we've come across in the public safety space. Today, you can expect to hear from Dru Clarke, Assistant Director of Operations at Fairfax County's 911 Center, one of the largest in Virginia, and founder of Change Talk, a leadership training firm serving public safety professionals nationwide. We covered a ton of ground in today's conversation. We hit on Dru's career journey, his philosophy on culture and people-first leadership in 911. We discussed the staffing crisis and how Fairfax is looked at as a more innovative center and how they're thinking about AI adoption. And we even had a conversation about what makes an industry partnership actually work, including a bit of our own story with Fairfax and Wilmac Continuity WFM. Thank you so much to Dru for joining us on the podcast and to the Fairfax team for believing in us and choosing to work with us. We are so grateful for our partnership. Let's get into today's episode of the Wilmac Wire with Dru Clarke. Welcome to the Wilmac Wire. I'm Emily Miller, joined by my co-host, Steve McDonnell. On this show, we talk with the drivers, the leaders, innovators, and decision makers pushing customer interaction technology and AI forward. And because we're proud to call Western New York home, we also spotlight the drivers in our own community, the people and organizations shaping growth and innovation right here. Let's get into it. All right, we'll get things started with introducing our guests. So he started as a call taker at Fairfax County in 2013, and he worked his way up through every level of the center. He's now the Assistant Director of Operations at Virginia's largest 911 center, leading a team of 200 telecommunicators. He launched Change Talk in 2020, which is a leadership training firm serving public safety professionals nationwide. He's known for his philosophy of people before policy and culture before strategy. He's a Johns Hopkins grad and regular keynote speaker at public safety conferences. Welcome to the Wilmac Wire, Dru Clarke. Dru, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always tell Steve, I feel like I need to dim the lights and get a fog machine behind me when I
for the
when I do the intros, have you break through something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Dru, we're so excited to be chatting with you today. We're going to get things started with an icebreaker. We call it this or that. We do it with all our guests just to dip their toes in the water a little bit and get the conversation flowing. So I have 3 for you, and then I saved 1 from Chad. So that one's his specific. I'll save that one for the end.
A Chad bonus. Let's do it.
Yeah, a Chad bonus. So the first one is just weather related. Virginia summers or Virginia winters? Which one do you prefer?
Virginia winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the heat of San Antonio.
Exactly. It was atrocious.
Yeah.
Winter,
It's
at least you can
atrocious.
layer up, you know?
Yes, I agree.
I'm
I'd
with
rather
you.
be cold. I'd rather be cold than
100%.
hot. Wonderful. Okay, next one. Speaking on stage or walking the conference floor?
Ooh. Speaking on
Neither.
stage.
Yeah. So we were just chatting with Jeremy about the same thing, but when did you kind of get into speaking?
It was 2018 I got into.
Okay.
So I went to my first conference 2017. I was so inspired and I was like, 2018, I'm just going to apply everywhere. And that's kind of what I did. And I got so many rejections because who's this random guy that's like...
Who's this random guy?
But I had a few conferences that actually accepted me. Virginia Spring Conference being one of them. And then 5 years later, I actually got to keynote the very first conference that I went to. So it was like a full circle moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
How, out of curiosity, as we've been going to a lot more events and speaking, did it come natural to you, or have you worked on it? I mean, public speaking and being in front of a lot of
Public
people.
speaking come natural? No. No, I was super nervous. Like, and I'm not talking about like just regular like jitters. I'm talking about like full on panic attacks. Like I'd be in the parking lot, like pacing, and like my heart would flutter, my throat would close, but I loved it. So, I would just practice all the time, and people make fun of me even to this day. Like, before I go on to speak, you'll probably see me like behind a building or something, just like listening to myself
Yeah.
because that's how I learn. So I record everything that I do and I just put it in my headphones and I just pace, and that kind of just keeps me steady.
I love it.
So that's how you practice it. You'll
Yeah.
record what you want and then just keep listening to it over and over.
Yeah. Only the intro though. I don't have time. Only the intro.
The intro, just to get you started on your rolling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. And next one is first day as a call taker or first day as the assistant director?
Oh, you can't ask me that one. You can't ask me that one. I would have to say assistant director. I
Yeah.
would have to say assistant director. Call taker was like, it's scary.
Yeah. I
It's
can
like you don't know
imagine.
what to expect. You know, you don't know if anyone's going to accept you, how they feel. You don't even know if like the job is right for you at that point. You're kind of like, I'm just going to
Right.
see if it feels right. But by the
Yeah.
time I got to assistant director, I was like, these are my people, and what an
Yep.
honor this is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Okay. And last one. So he had classic animated Disney or modern CGI Pixar Disney.
Classic
As you're
animated.
this or that.
Classic animated. Yeah.
Classic animated.
I saw
Okay.
Lion King on Broadway 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Life changing. Have
Yeah.
you seen it?
No.
I have seen it.
Steve
Life
has.
changing.
It was phenomenal. I probably
Yeah.
saw it 10 years ago. It longer, maybe. Yeah, 10, 15 years ago. It was great.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So, Chad, good question, I guess. Thanks, Chad.
You did a decent job, Chad.
You did a decent job. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, thanks for humoring us, Dru, and doing our this or that icebreaker. Pretty easy. I know the one you didn't want to choose, but I appreciate you humoring it. All right. We're gonna just start right in your career journey, Dru. And you, like we talked about in your intro, you started as a call taker at Fairfax in 2013. Like, what brought you into the 911 space?
Little known fact, I went to school for neuroscience, so I know you gave my Johns Hopkins intro.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to be a coroner growing up, which is like super morbid,
Ooh.
but kind of relates.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be like the very last stop in public safety, and I ended up being at the very front end, which
Sure.
is pretty ironic. But yeah, I was doing like classic neuroscience research, and I'm very millennial, so I want to see the impact that I'm having every single day. And with research, that's not happening, right?
Yeah.
So I actually called my mom. I was like, hey, I know you paid like $50K a year for this degree, but I'm going to pivot here. And she was like, where are we going? And I said, I don't know. And she actually recommended 911. So that's
Wow.
how I got into it.
Okay. Are you originally from the Fairfax area?
Kind of, sort of, not really. So I grew up in New York for 10
Okay.
years. So Brooklynite originally.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I left. So when we left, we moved to this area. So I consider
Yeah.
myself from here because if you ask me like where do I
Right.
go out to eat in New York, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not what I was doing
Yeah.
at 10, so couldn't help you there.
Right.
But since we moved to Virginia, I've been in the DMV area
Yeah.
all my life.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So we also talked about in your intro, you worked your way kind of through every level of the center. So what made you interested in kind of like progressing and moving up that chain?
Emily, I don't think of myself as working my way because
Yeah.
that kind of implies like I intentionally took these roles for a reason. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I ended up in so many different roles just because they were presented to me. There were opportunities at the time that no one else wanted because
Right.
either a bad boss ran them or people were scared. Or sometimes I got opportunities that was like, Dru, you're going to do this. And I was just like, okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I had so many different hats so early in my career was like, no one wanted to train and Dru's a people person, sit them with Dru. And then QAQI came open and it was only supposed to be for 3 months and it ended up being for 2 years because I loved it. And so I stayed in that role. And then I got forced out of QAQI, ironically, by my director at the time. And he was like, I have 8 in the academy, 6 are failing, 12-week academy, 4 weeks left. I need you. And I was like, holy crap, what am I doing here? And he
Yeah.
moved me to the training department and I fell in love with training. Like
Right.
I think he saw something in me at a very early stage that I didn't see in myself because I was working in a back closet, like reviewing high priority calls all day long. I was not talking to people. I did not want to train. I was very nervous to publicly speak. So he saw that in me. He was like, I think you're the person. And in hindsight, he was absolutely correct. I got all 8 out.
Yeah.
Do
Oh my
you
God.
think all those diverse roles prepared you for where you are now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even though it wasn't intentionally done, I think that each and every role I kind of draw upon in my current role,
Yeah.
especially with QA/QI, just like performance metrics, being data informed, but still people driven. In the academy setting, a lot of people think that like teaching people things is all about knowledge, but it's actually about relationships. Like if you can relate to someone, they learn a lot better. And so the academy taught me how to relate to people I mean, we hired at 18, but we had a lot of people that are retired who come to work for 911. So the spectrum is like 18 to 60, you know? So
It's a
you
wide
have,
range.
yeah, so you have to learn how to relate to so many different people, so many different generations. And I definitely take that with me in my role everywhere I go. And then after the academy, I became a supervisor for 2 years.
Okay.
What's out of curiosity? I don't think we've ever talked about this on the podcast. What's a day like when you're in the academy?
In the academy, it's basic. So you have a set syllabus that you create. And I think being an instructor, so any instructors out there who's listening, don't be afraid to like be creative. Like throw the syllabus out, be creative, right? It's good to have structure, but if they're not getting it, change the rule book. And so as an instructor, that was kind of my thing. It was like, okay, this is what we have planned for today, but based on what they show us, we have to pivot. And so it would be hands-on exercises. Our academy, we're very fortunate. We have all of our technology and equipment. We have a demo version in the academy. So they're in a sandbox environment. They can mess up on CAD. They can enter events, do all that sort of thing. So getting them off of a PowerPoint, which we traditionally taught with, and getting their fingers on the technology was huge for me.
Yeah. Experiential. Yeah. A
Yeah.
little bit more in the weeds. Yeah. Love it. Okay, Dru, I have to ask, so you made the move to private sector for a short period of time, but what was it like taking kind of your 911 perspective to the vendor industry partner side of the industry?
It was incredible and also scary at the same time.
Yeah.
So in 911, it's very hierarchy. It's very command and control, right? And the vendor side is not really like that. I mean, there's structure, but I think it's the Wild Wild West in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it's like innovate, go, be the change. Like you're grinding. Everyone on the team is like grinding for the mission, which we do in government, but it's at a lot slower pace because there's so many guardrails. And so going into the commercial space, being looked at as a subject matter expert from day one was a huge change, right? So call taker day one is like frightening. I don't know what I'm doing here. Commercial side day one is like, oh no, I've done this before. I know these people. I know this industry. So it was a lot more just kind of like inspirational in the sense that I felt more empowered to drive change, which when you think about it as a call taker, you should absolutely feel that on a daily basis. And so that's kind of been my thing is like, how do I bring that innovation, that creativity, that drive from day one from the commercial side into the government side so that they feel like they're leaders and subject matter experts from day one?
Right.
The company you went to in the private sector was, I'm assuming at the period, like startup action, innovative, let's go, go, go too. You didn't go to like a Moto or a slow moving type of company. You went to a company that was moving at a fast pace.
Yeah. So let me tell you this story. I'll try to keep it PG. So I was at a conference in Ohio, right, teaching a class on feedback. A buddy of mine who was in 911 was like, come with me to this networking event. I'm like, okay, networking, hate that word, right? So I go with him and he was like, I want to introduce you to some folks. And I ended up having a beer at a bar. And this lady was like, why are you here? like at the conference. I'm telling her about this course, and I mean, I'm like gushing about my course, like, and she's like, "Tell me more about like your journey and who you are." And she's like, "This is so fascinating." By the end of our conversation, she goes, "I'm a recruiter for Carbine, and I think I have the perfect job for you." And I was like, "I'm not looking for a job, so thanks."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And she was like, "No, it's a role in customer success. Like, you'd be so great at this." And I was like, "I don't even know what customer success is. I don't even know who Carbine is. Like, all of this is not what I'm looking for." But when I looked at the job description, I was like, another opportunity just presented itself to me.
Yeah.
I was like, why not me? Let's do this. So that's how I moved into the private sector.
I'm curious, are you a big believer in like fate? Like if it's meant to be, it will be. Yeah. I love it. You can tell. But I love it. Okay, I'm gonna take us back now to Fairfax, and obviously you're now back at Fairfax, and you lead a team of 200 telecommunicators. So what is a day in the life like for that?
Chaos. It's good chaos.
One word.
I would assume.
It is. And I think the larger your center gets, the more sort of structure and accountability that you need, which at a certain point, it does kind of damper the amount of time you have to be creative, because you have to constantly like build lanes for people to drive in. But and once you get to my role, you're like putting out fires that your call takers, they don't even know exist. You're just like managing things with stakeholders, with partnerships. You're basically trying to make sure that no external or internal threats impede the mission.
Yeah.
And so when they see me smiling, they see me happy, they see, happy-go-lucky Dru, but they don't know like behind the scenes, I'm like actively like working to mitigate certain issues.
Yeah. That's interesting. I can imagine, but like you have the perfect personality for it too. Because when you meet someone like you, like I know I've met a couple of times at conferences in person. Like you just put people at ease because you're kind, and I can see how that like levels up and helps, which is wonderful. But okay, last question before I move us on into talking about change talk a little bit more. But what is it about the 911 profession that just keeps you so invested in it?
I mean, in the beginning and still today, I will say I'm glad that you said that I started as a call taker, because even today I still consider myself a call taker. Like I'm still very tethered to that mission. Like even in my role, when stuff hits the fan, my people know I will sit next to them and I will take calls if that's what they need. Right?
How often do you have to hop on?
Every once in a blue moon, not too often. Not too often, because there's many layers between me and the front line. So I have supervisors, I have managers, things like that. But if it's night shift and I'm off, what's 2 hours with the team just taking calls? It means so much. Where were we, Emily?
Just talking about what keeps you kind of in 911, why you come back every day,
Yeah, so originally it was saving lives. That is what kept me. And then I kind of just became a believer in the people that do the work. I was like, these are really the behind the scenes heroes that no one really knows about. We're very invisible. No one brings us cookies like they bring the fire department, or they say thank you. It's a very thankless job. And so I was like, you know what? If I can be a voice for the people that feel like they have no voice, like what an honor for me.
And we talk about this all the time, and I think we talked about it when we were at APCO with you, Dru. But it is surprising for me, not being in the 911, coming from 911 industry and now being in it for a couple of years, just that how much the actual United States community society doesn't really know much about 911, and doesn't, for whatever reason, whether it's the publicity or the way they're perceived, doesn't put them at the same level as a police officer or a firefighter. And being in it, I think it's ridiculous. And there's got to be ways to get it out. People like you are actually trying to get the message out, how important it is. And it's the first line.
Yeah, we're the first of the first responder. And I think we talked about this, which is interesting from like a historical standpoint, is that, we say like 1968 was like the first 911 call to Haleyville, Alabama, but really it was a test call. And that was only in Alabama. And so it took at least 20 years for it to hit the other states. So when I talk about 911, I always put the perspective of we are the youngest public safety agency. And so we have the most room to grow, which means we also have an opportunity to tell our story, which hasn't always been done. So I'm really excited. I think it's an exciting time in 911 in general, not just from a tech space, but also from like a brand identity of like, who are we outside of police and fire?
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. I always just am like shocked when someone's like, yeah, 1968, it was the first 911 call. And like you said, a test 911 call, by the way. So you're like, oh my gosh, you think about, like, you do the math in your head and you're like, yeesh, that is just wild to think about.
Well, it's not to go on a tangent. What you just said was very interesting, kind of branding 911, where if you look at police and firefighters, they've been branded in movies and books as heroes, which they are. I'm not saying they aren't, but it is a kind of branding that needs to happen for 911.
And you know when it started happening? Halle Berry.
I was just going to say the Halle Berry movie.
Yeah. I don't know how many times people would be like, oh, you're like Halle Berry. I'm like, it doesn't happen like that.
That's not reality.
That's not reality. But that was the first time it like entered mainstream, was like Halle Berry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was going to bring that movie up, but oh my gosh, love it. Okay. So I'm going to move us now, Dru, into talking about Change Talk. And you launched it in 2020. Can you share more about what you do at Change Talk and kind of what prompted its founding?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about what prompted its founding first.
Yeah.
I told you all I hit the conference circuit around 2018 was my first conference, and I fell in love with teaching. I was like, I want to do this as much as I can. And fortunately, I didn't realize this at the time. My agency used to back me to go to these conferences and teach, right? They would financially back me. So pay for my flight, pay for my hotel, pay for my registration, which a lot of places don't do. And if you run a 911 center, invest in that, in your people, like their passion projects, invest in that. So that's what I was doing. 2018, 2019, I was applying everywhere. And I had 3 really well-known conferences that I got into for 2020. And one of them was in Missouri State. And I say that because we all know what happened in 2020, right?
Yep.
COVID, Miss Rona. So she happens, and now my agency was like, Dru, we can't back you financially because we can't by policy. Like, we can't allow people to fly. We can't allow, all these sort of things. And so I talked to my finance guy, and I was like, the other conferences canceled except for this one conference in Missouri. And these people are so kind, and there's just something that's like drawing me to them. And my finance director was like, then create an LLC. Go on your own.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it that easy? And he was like, yeah, it's pretty easy. And so that's kind of what I did. And I'm not going to lie to you all. When I went to my hotel room in Missouri, it was in the Ozarks. I cried. I was like, what the heck am I doing all the way out here? Conferences are not cheap. I'm in deep, like a couple thousand, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, have I made the wrong choice? And of course, again, I call my mom because she's like my best friend. And she's like, listen, you're there. You've made it. Be there.
Yeah.
Like, be where your feet are, right? And so I went to the conference, and I mean, those people, I still am connected with them today. They showed me so much love and care, and I really owe it to who I am today as a presenter. I owe it to them.
Wow.
And so, like, that's how Change Talk was born. It wasn't because I wanted to make money or I wanted to be, it was simply because I wanted to keep a commitment to the Missouri conference. And my finance director was like, then make an LLC.
Oh my gosh.
And then it became something like completely different. Then it started to take off, and it was like people started requesting me all sorts of places. And people always ask me, like, why don't you have a website? Why don't you have this? I'm like, I have a full-time job.
I literally can't.
I literally can't. Like, Change Talk is not my full-time job, but it is my vehicle to be able to go places and make revenue that my agency can't back me to do. So, like last year, I went to Madrid for a critical control room conference. Wild. I would have never dreamed that I'd be presenting in Madrid, which was just amazing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I like when I was doing my sleuthing on you, I was like digging into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this kind of conversation about like culture and then the relationship building, just the people part of business and just how the psychology behind it. So, let me ask, what impact have you seen with Change Talk? Like, obviously you've been called to speak at multiple places and people are seeing the impact. Like, what impact have you seen on the people that you're speaking to?
It's really interesting because when you're presenting, like you kind of have a feeling that your stuff is landing, but you don't really know the impact that you're making on people until much later. And so there's this, can we get juicy a little bit?
Please.
That's what we're on here.
There's this 911 Facebook group. It's called Nocturnal Dispatchers.
Okay.
Notorious for like the tea, right? They give the tea out in the industry. Not promoting them, just telling you where this is coming from. But they had this segment on there about like someone who was looking for presenters. And this one girl, and people were just they were screenshotting it and they were sending it to me. This one girl said, I was ready to quit my job forever in 911, and I heard Dru Clarke speak, and I am still in the industry today because of him.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap, like that's my why. Yeah. That's my why. Like that one person. And so I don't know the impact of all of the people that I meet and I talk to, but on the back end, when I get sort of, the confirmation like that, I'm like, okay, let's keep doing it. If it saves one person's career, let's keep doing it.
That's an amazing story. Did you say you still keep in touch and help out Missouri?
Yeah, when they need me,
yeah, you will. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool. That's such a unique start to like a business. Like, it's so interesting.
Yeah, and they were one of the first states that I ran into. They do free training for the state. Shout out to Zachary Dykes, who is one of the APCO presidents for Missouri. He leads this free training network. And so he reached out to me a couple times and was like, hey, what's some new content you have? And so anytime he reaches out, I'm like, I'm there, because they were so just like crucial for my start.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That must have been a cool call to your mother afterwards, being like,
oh,
hey,
yeah,
thank you so much. This ended up being unbelievable.
And like Missouri doesn't have a lot of black people, just full disclosure, in the Ozarks, And so I used to have this like full, like a lot more luscious beard, and everyone kept like staring at me. And I was like, why is everyone staring at me? And finally, this one lady was like, you look like LeBron James. And I was like, okay, got it.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny. Oh my gosh.
Now I'm going to keep thinking that.
Yeah.
I just got to get some more muscles,
How I'm assuming, you drove, right? Could you even fly back then?
I flew. Okay, so this was how naive I was. I wasn't even like geographically in tune to what I was doing. I flew into St. Louis. And then I looked on an Uber and I was like, how far is it? And the Uber is like 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so I hop in.
Yeah,
I get a rental car and now I'm driving 4 hours. It's dark. I don't know where I am. So I was just like having a crisis moment,
Yeah. That's like you remember that always.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes back and you're like PTSD.
I did watch a TV show that showed the Ozarks, and it does look like the lakes are actually pretty, I guess, when you see them. Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So Dru, like we talked about you being a people person, but like why have you taken such a vested interest in organizational culture?
In my journey, I did not receive a lot of training for the roles that I was in. And I think even today, with all of the training that's out there, there are still a lot of people who feel like there's no playbook, there's no blueprint. I'm thrust into a supervisor position. What's the competencies to be a great supervisor? I don't know. Stephen asked me, what does a day in the life look like as an assistant director? A lot of people, they just don't know. And so that's kind of what keeps me going in this work, is like, I want to teach people the things that I wish I knew back when I started these roles, and like show them kind of some best practices of how to navigate certain things. And my private sector experience also kind of informed like, what does a good implementation look like? What does a bad implementation look like? And a lot of people that just do government work, they're not exposed to that on a daily basis.
Right.
Fairfax does seem to be very in front on knowing what a good implementation and a bad implementation looks like, which is a great thing. And it helps that you're there and you have perspective from both sides. Is that been, I know, Emily, you're going to go into Fairfax in a bit, so I don't want to steal your thunder here, but is that something that was kind of taught through you guys growing into it, or did you really take that from Carbine? How did that come about, that Fairfax has turned into really a center that a ton of centers around the United States look up to, and how you guys approach it?
Honestly, I credit it to our very first director when we became an independent agency. His name's Steve Souter. He built teams that were not just competent in Fairfax, but that could deploy out and learn. And so Fairfax is very fortunate that we have a lot of people that started under the headset that have now moved into other roles within the organization: support services, technology, telephony teams, FOIA, HR. So, but this was Steve's vision. This was, building teams that could handle anything. And so now we're in a succession period where the people that still came up under his leadership, they are very well versed in, we have Steve McMurr. Steve McMurr he implemented the first shift for our center to go to the ESI net, first center in Virginia to do that. Like, we have a lot of trailblazers. So I thank you for the accolades, but it's not just Dru. Like, there's a whole team of us in the center who are very committed to best practices, not just regionally, but nationally.
Yeah. And it seems like you do, but I'll ask the question. You embrace that you guys are, one of the top centers with deploying technology, looking at new technology, and help out other centers around the country. That's something that you guys clearly embrace.
Absolutely. We are very tech forward. And part of my role is saying when the tech gets a little bit too much, right? So I always say it's good to be on the leading edge. It's not good to be on the bleeding edge, because then the people get burnt out, and then you have good tech that they're going to resist because they're just tired, right? So there's a checks and balances to that. Like, yes, we want to be innovative, but you have to do it in a very strategic way that people can absorb.
Right. Yeah. And that segues well kind of into my next question. And this section is about wellness and retention, and how it's just the staffing crisis it's across the country. It's in Canada too, even. But I guess, how do you view it being so involved in the people part of the 911 center? And then what have you done at Fairfax, or what do you believe centers can do better to help mitigate that crisis?
Yeah, so I always tell this story about, my initial journey in 911 after I onboarded. And this is not to, rag on Fairfax or anything. These are industry sort of norms. They don't learn your name in the first year and a half. You're rookie, you're newbie, you're not allowed to make change. They literally tell you, like, you haven't earned your keep here yet to make change. They tell you to keep your head down, don't make too much noise, So it's a lot of command and control things from the very beginning, and that inhibits innovation and creativity. Right. And so now when I went to the private sector, it was like, what's your name? I'm like, Dru with a U. They're like, got it. It took my center 2 years to know that I went by Dru with a U.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's a very old school command and control, though, right? That's how.
Yeah. Exactly. And I get into these debates sometimes when I teach with the older generation, because they're like, you have to earn respect. And I'm like, no, you give respect. You earn trust, but you give respect because they're a human, right? And so now I think that we're trying to implement sort of a cultural shift where when people walk in from day one, they're part of a team. It's not us versus them. Like, they are the team. They're the future. They're the vision. They're also your time off for vacation. So, so those are some of the cultural norms that we're trying to change, not just in Fairfax, but in 911 as a whole. Is yes, we have traditionally been command and control, but I don't think it's working for the newer generations anymore. And it's okay to change.
And I mean, I talk about the flywheel here too. When you lose people, especially good people, replacing them takes a ton of time. You guys are interviewing and hiring, 4 to 1, 5 to 1 to see who gets through the training, and the training takes 12 to 18 months. Can you talk to that? Like how difficult it is to keep the certain amount of people that you need on
Yeah.
staff?
Yeah, and not just the time that it takes to train. When they leave, that's money out the door. That's thousands of dollars that you have to start all over again. So for us in Fairfax, we have a very very robust training program. So for 3 months, you're in an academy setting, in a cohort. Then you get into on-the-job training where there's a one-on-one trainer for another 3 months. So there's a 6-month total period where you're being monitored and basically evaluated on your performance before you can take that one call by yourself, which is good for us, right? We want to make sure there's a safety net built in. But during that time, especially from academy setting to on the floor setting, the cultures are very different. The academy is very much it's controlled, it's very friendly. They're catering to your learning style. When you get out on the floor, the pressure is so heavy that it's oftentimes hard for the CTOs to really sort of cater to you. And I think that's the problem a lot of our CTOs have, is that they're constantly documenting, they're constantly trying to make sure, you haven't messed up because they are liable for your performance. And I think sometimes we lose that when we just tell them, we need to retain. We're losing too many. And it's like, to be a CTO, you are the supervisor at that point. You're the first line supervisor. You're handling so many administrative things that if we could help them with the administrative things, they could focus more on the people aspect.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the magic is really going to be. It's empowering our CTOs so that we can retain the talent in on-the-job training so that they become competent when they're cut loose and then they stay longer.
Yeah, you're setting them up better at the front.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve definitely stole my thunder before, but it's fine. So we talked about Fairfax being innovation forward, Dru, and I think we can tell too that culture aligns well with your way of thinking. So what do you think, and you said too, you have a say in how much technology might be too much technology or what decision is made. So how do you go in every day with that mindset, especially in the past few years, how much more technology is coming out in the AI phase and everyone's talking about AI. How do you balance that in your position?
Yeah, it really comes down to having a pulse on your people. And I can't do that from my office, right? I've got to be with them. I have to have time with them. I have to set up meetings where there's, cross-departmental meetings, time where there's focus groups, just to hear their voice. We even have, sometimes I hate it, transparency. Sometimes I hate it and I want to get rid of it. But we have an anonymous suggestion box. Right? So at any point, people have access to me. People can write to me whatever they feel, whatever kind of suggestions that they want. And surprisingly, though, out of this anonymous suggestion box 2 years ago, so many people put, "We want AI for non-emergency." So that tells me the appetite is there.
There, yeah.
That's the hardest part, right? The appetite's already there. So now it's just about finding the right fit. And you bring your people with you in those sort of evaluation elements because they're going to be using it. So now you're building teams to go and scout out, okay, well, what's the best product? Is it this company? Is it that company? Okay, let's bring them in for a demo. Let's see who's actually willing to be a partner and not just implement and ditch, So that's kind of how, best case scenario, we implement. Now, have we made mistakes in the past? Absolutely. Where we get excited, we purchase, and then we're like, oh, they hate it.
Yeah.
Getting the buy-in from them is huge, though.
It's huge.
I mean, that is interesting because I think sometimes you're looking at people who are going top down at a very high level, being like, "This is what we're purchasing. Good luck."
Yeah. And that's why I laugh at your question in the beginning, Emily, for this or that about the conference floor, like the vendor floor versus a stage. If I walk the vendor floor, everyone knows I'm, one of the top officials in my center. So they're going to try to sell me everything. However, I don't buy anything from the vendor floor. I send my people out to buy things because you can tell a good company with how they treat your people, how they treat the front line. And so I'll tell them, hey guys, we're looking for furniture. Go find a good chair.
Yeah.
They come back and they're like, some people were kind of nice, some people were kind of not nice, some people kind of I felt invisible, Okay, we won't buy from that. So it's a very good temperature check for who is willing to work with my people versus who's willing to work with the title.
Yeah,
great idea.
It is. It transitions very nicely into my next question is what makes like an industry partnership work from your perspective?
Yeah. And what before you even dive into that, we feel like there's a difference between vendor versus partner. And we've seen it even more in the public safety space. And I'm sure it sounds like you've seen it. You deal with it, I'm sure, on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, to Emily's question, what makes a good industry partner?
Yeah.
Yes, someone who is willing to take feedback and be open and honest with you. And honestly, guys, it's kind of a shame sometimes where the norm is just being sold smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Where, you're being sold a pipe dream, but the product doesn't actually exist. And I think it would land a lot different if you said, hey, this is the vision, this is the roadmap. It's not here yet, but this is what we want to create with you.
Yeah.
That's a totally different conversation than, hey, this is what we have, buy this.
Yeah.
And then you purchase and it's like, oh, it's not ready yet. And then you're 1 year in and it's like you're still kind of working to get it implemented. So I think from the very beginning, it's honesty. It's like going on a date. Who are you? Like, let's keep it real. Who are you? What are your values? Can I trust you? Do I want to build something long term with you? Or is this just like, all right, next?
And we also see, especially because we come from being a managed services provider, there's a lot of companies, especially with AI, which it's even more dangerous in AI, that people implement and then, see you later, on to the next one. And with AI, you definitely don't want to be doing that. You want to be making sure you're in a partnership and working it out together.
Yeah, and not just that, but who in the partnership has the power to make change? So if I'm buying this product, okay, what does the maintenance look like? Okay, when I have issues, what are the SLAs? Can I fix things on my own, or do you own everything and I always have to reach out to you to fix a problem that I have at 3 a.m. on the night shift? So getting our partners to kind of understand that like sometimes the power has to be shared in a controlled way is very different in a partnership. That conversation looks and feels very different with a partner versus a vendor.
Yep.
And I think legacy equipment, not putting names out there, but a lot of legacy equipment, they still have that sort of vendor mindset.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I have to ask this, Dru, but you've been a big part of bringing Wilmac Continuity WFM into Fairfax. And just curious if you can share a little bit about what prompted kind of your interest in workforce management. And then from the industry partner vendor relations side, like how has the experience been so far?
Yeah. So when I got back to the center in 2023, we were still on Excel spreadsheets for scheduling. And I had this like flash imagery of just like Flintstones and like typing on tablets with, stones. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is absolutely crazy. And then one of the problems that we run into is people sign up for all these shifts and they just forget. They just forget they sign, and then it causes a huge staffing challenge. And so again, I think the appetite for change was there. It's just, okay, who's the right partner to move forward with? And unfortunately, we started with one company, and they could not deliver. And then when that happens, the trust that people have in the space, in the scheduling space, diminishes. So now I have to do a lot of extra work to say, hey, you don't stop at failure. We have to try again, right? And then you guys came along. And I think my director, Scott Broman, recommended you. And I was like, oh, I never heard of them. Let me look into them. And then just the way that like you engaged with us as we interacted, I was like, okay, these seem like good people, right? Good people behind the product. Let's see what the product's about. Then you showed the product. Was the product ready? I don't think so. Was the demo great? I don't think so. And honestly, the game changer was when I told you guys that feedback from my team and you said, we understand. Will you give us an opportunity to do it again? That was like, that's what a partnership is about.
Yeah.
Right. It's taking that feedback and saying, okay, let's make it better. And so I had to go back to my team and I said, hey, you want to work with people that are willing to get dirty with you, right? Because all these different processes, you're not going to find something out of the box. that's going to work with all these different processes.
Yeah.
So you want someone not only who's going to be willing to get dirty with you, but when stuff goes right, you become the blueprint and you can help them grow. Right? It's a mutual relationship.
Right.
And I was strategic, and I know you guys, you have mentioned this to me. I was strategic in that I took one of my most critical managers and I made him the head of this project.
Yeah.
And he was critical because he worked on the old project and he was very vested in that success, and it didn't succeed. And so I had to be like, hey man, it's not you. It's okay. But what I want from you is to keep that investment with a different partner.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we landed here today.
Yeah. And I think that strategy was great. I think hopefully you think of us as what you said earlier. Like, yeah, we were not ready at that point. It was still, the product was still getting established and we needed feedback and stuff. And we didn't want to just throw some piece of software at you guys. Let's build it correctly and customize it specifically for Fairfax. So hopefully we've been accommodating and working as a partnership with you guys in building this out.
Absolutely. We have been on Excel for 20 years. Why would we expect a partner to just flip a switch and like have everything that we want?
Yeah.
Right? We have to work towards it. So I'm very grateful for you guys because in 911, I know we're a very grumpy bunch.
Yeah. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Oh
no,
my gosh.
I had anticipated it to be much grumpier. I've been pleasantly surprised.
Well, I love that. And I know Chad, it was like what, his first day? It was
yeah, Chad was correct. It was he just happens to live near you guys, so he was thrown right into it.
That's so great.
He dove right in. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing about that, Dru. We really appreciate it.
That.
And we'll keep getting better. We're looking forward to it. So I'll continue this conversation into just really quickly on AI. Like we chatted about, it's everywhere. It's showing up at every level. Obviously, you said some of your people are very interested in using it for non-emergency. So how are you thinking about it at Fairfax, being known as a more innovative, progressive bunch when it comes to that technology? How are you utilizing AI? How are you trying to implement it with your people?
Mm-hmm. I think we have to have controlled chaos, right? It has to be controlled, especially in this space because we are dealing with lives. You don't want to implement something that's going to completely destroy the public's trust in your capability. Right. And so that's kind of why we went the non-emergency direction. I know there's centers out there that are looking for AI to help them with 911, and Godspeed to them. For Fairfax, I think we are looking to really perfect the low priority, high acuity stuff first before we venture into anything else.
Right.
And that's kind of where we landed. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but I'm like, if AI is like, it's like a secretary on steroids, right? It can do it eats administrative tasks for breakfast. That's what it does. And so that's what the non-emergency line is. When I started 911, I was like, I did not sign up for non-emergency. This is not the saving lives mission. It's basically a glorified Google. Like you are Google for the community. And so if we can get AI to kind of interact in a safe and measured way with community members for those low problems, then we can start to venture out and imagine it in different spaces. But for now, we're using it for simulations. We're using it for AI on the non-emergency line. We're using it for translation because Fairfax County, we have 170 different languages spoken. So it is very good with helping us kind of translate any language that we need. And in the future, we're looking for more sort of performance assistance, like live call monitoring and just being there to say, hey, I heard this in the background. Did you see that? Did you flag this? That sort of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's great. I think the phased approach for 911 is so important. I think AI in general, there's some trust issues in every industry and in everywhere possible. But 911, as you said, it's not a contact center that's taking credit card refunds or, what's my code to get into my bank account? It's life and death. literal life and death. So you don't want to be the use case for too much of on the fringe AI. And I think a phased approach is correct. And who knows, it may never get to the actual 911 calls.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's okay. I think, and this is a little aside, this is a little philosophical, but I think it's a human tendency to want to create something human,
Mhm.
right? But we are such complex beings that it is very hard for a computer to encompass the whole essence of being a human. And that's a blessing. Like, that is a huge win for humanity, is that we have a level of connection and empathy that cannot be replicated easily.
Mhm.
And so as much of a techie as I am still a humanist, and kind of marrying the two, it's very important.
100%. All right, Dru, last question for you before we start to wrap up. But so you started at Fairfax 13 years ago. How has the floor, like the Fairfax 911 Center floor, evolved since you started? And then what changes that have you helped been a part of that you think other and more centers should be considering?
Oh my gosh, there's so much evolution that's happened.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. Everything has changed.
That's a broad question.
That's a broad question. My bad. Scratch it out.
You know what? There's a couple of really key things that stood out to me, that even I pushed back on in the very, very beginning, which was social media. When social media came out, I was like, why does 911 need to be on social media? I don't want people to see inside, and and that's so counterintuitive to how I feel now about branding and telling our story. And what a great vehicle social media has been. We had an employee, she's moved on, she's promoted out to another agency, and we're really excited for her. But she was really the brain power behind our social media platform. And she did this segment called Day in the Life of a Dispatcher. And it went viral across the nation. And all she's doing is she has her Yeti and she's going into work and the camera's following her. It was very authentic. But I think that was a moment where I was like, okay, we do have a real opportunity to tell our story versus the media telling it. Like, how powerful is that to give people the real Holly Berry story in 911? That's one. Two, my center always has had a big heart. So I won't say that we evolved into this, but it has kind of grown into a movement. So back when Hurricane Helene hit North Carolina, we had a statewide sort of meeting that was very impromptu during the crisis. And, people were like, okay, how can we help? So a very select few of our centers in Virginia sent 911 professionals to Helene to just be the staffing for the people that could not get off because they had to stay in the center. And that was really a mutual aid moment that I don't think we have very often in 911. Police departments have mutual aid, fire departments have mutual aid. It's very embedded in sort of their systems. But for us in 911, that's not a very common thing. So now our region has kind of grown and expanded. We have 55 professionals now in the Northern Virginia region that are TERT members, telecommunicator emergency response teams. And so they'll go out in crisis to support other centers, but also they'll support local centers when there's a line of duty death and people want to go to the funeral, or when DC has an inauguration or a special event and they just need extra support, our professionals can go help. So I think that us heroes helping heroes is kind of the next wave of 911.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, I love it. All right. Steve, do you have any other questions for Dru before we wrap up?
This has been great. I feel like I was being kind of cautious because I asked Dru 100 questions at dinner the other night and found out a lot about this, and I didn't want to overshadow anything and speak. Yeah. So, but no, thank you, Dru. This has been awesome. Really appreciate you coming on. Means a lot to us.
I appreciate you too. And that dinner was wonderful. I actually have a selfie of us, so I'll send that over to you.
Awesome.
Oh, can't wait to see that. That'll be the whatchamacallit, the front of this episode. That'll be the main picture. Wonderful. All right. Dru, are there any other initiatives or programs at Fairfax that you'd like to share about, or just any other message that we didn't hit on that you'd like to share?
I want to get people involved with their police and fire departments a little bit more. So we have a really cool initiative happening right now where our real-time crime center, they have drones as a first responder. And the drone is monitoring our calls live. And it's looking at a transcript and it's picking out high priority things and it's flying in that direction to the location of the call before we even enter the call for service. And so we're looking at a 0-minute response time, and it is a huge sort of impact to safety and security for our community. And it's a partnership. Again, that word has come up a lot. It's a partnership between us and the police department. And so I know that as we kind of move into this space where 911 centers are separating from police and fire departments, I want to emphasize that we need each other. We need each other from commercial and government. We need each other within government from police, fire, EMS, sheriff's office, animal control, 911. We're all one big ecosystem, and it only works if we're all in it together.
Yeah, love it. Thanks for sharing, Dru.
That's
really
great.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
For our listeners, if you're interested in following along with what Dru is doing or what Fairfax County is doing, you can find Dru on LinkedIn under Dru Clarke. Clarke with an E, Dru with a U. I had to call those two. Wow. And then you can also find Fairfax County on LinkedIn as well. And last but not least, but definitely look out for Dru speaking at conferences. I definitely recommend finding one of his keynotes. I know the Mid-Eastern APCO Training Symposium, that's coming up. So we're gonna be there in full support of Dru. Dru, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I'll see you there.
Thank you, Dru.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Wilmac Wire. If you liked today's conversation, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or watch full episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also learn more about Wilmac Technologies and our work in customer interaction technology at wilmactech.com. We'll be back soon with more conversations with the drivers, those shaping our industry and those building right here in Western New York. See you next time.